Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we're going to talk about Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, Season 1, Episode 3. It's called The Reptile Room, Part 1. Joe, I'm going to start adding in Netflix's Lemony Snicket's
Oh
A
yeah,
Series,
yeah. This really needs to be a longer intro.
just to extend it as much as humanly possible. But full spoilers for the episode as always, and I'm still really enjoying it. I thought this was another solid episode. The kids go to live up with their uncle Montgomery. He's called Montgomery. He's a scientist. Was it herpetology? Was the word for the
I
study?
believe it is
Yeah,
because of the joke that comes up from that
yeah.
later.
The study of snakes. Uh,
Yes.
and he's a bit kooky, but much nicer, of course, than Olaf was. And then Count Olaf shows up doing his best cosplay of Hugo Strange.
Yes, basically.
Yeah, and tries
And it's
to.
not a very good effort, is it?
It's not, but that's immediately what I thought of as soon as the door opened. I was like, "Oh, it's Hugo
It's
Strange."
it's the beard and the glasses.
Yeah, and that's kind of the gist of it. And we get a little bit more of the spy plot and what's going on with that, just little tidbits. I will say this episode gave me the biggest laugh I've had yet in the show.
Which one?
The joke itself was amusing, but then Neil Patrick Harris had to stare at the camera, and I broke.
Me
I
too. Yeah.
broke so much. It's when they're sitting at dinner, and Monty's been promising the kids that he's going to take them to see a movie, and he mentions, "Oh, Stefan," which is the name that Olaf's
Stefano,
using
yes.
as alias Stefano, and he's like, I don't really like films. I prefer long form TV storytelling at the comfort of home. It's much better." And he stares right at the camera for a good 3 seconds, and I broke. I had to pause it. I was in stitches.
It is hilarious. And what makes it funny
Oh
is
my
like in
god.
the next scene he's on the phone and he's still going on about it. He's like, I know, it's just to comfort your own home. Why is it so much better?
What's funny is that there was a meta joke in the last episode that was the opposite, when he's talking about the theatre, and he says, "Oh, the theatre's much better than this loud streaming television." That it was
Yeah.
like, which was also funny, but this. Oh, that stare at the camera broke me.
I know. It was really like Netflix going, hey, you see this? We're going to do it better.
Oh, it's so good. And obviously, there's that extra meta layer where they're making fun of the movie and saying we're doing it better than the movie did. But even without that, just on its own, just that stare at the camera, quality.
So funny.
Interestingly, I actually remembered a bit from the movie when it happened in this. When the snake goes around
Snake,
the
yeah.
kid, that
Yeah.
visual just clicked in my head. I was like, "Oh
It
yeah,
triggers something, didn't it?
yeah." I remember seeing that as soon as it happened. I don't remember anything else about this section from the movie. I assume it's obviously it was a lot more truncated, and a lot of this going to the movie
Yes.
and stuff wasn't there. But yeah,
No, I don't recall any of that from the movie.
nah, me neither. But no, so they set this up, and we get when they go to the movie, and we see that he's got his own decoder, his own telescope thing that they've all the people a part of this society have, and he thinks that Olaf is from a rival society. He says,
He's see, I'm not entirely sure because it gets like he thinks he's from a one of the science groups to steal his research.
yeah, but it was the way he said it. It was like a rival thing, and but yeah, so he uses his decoder, and the subtitles on the screen, which is a fake movie, which is why it's so bad because you keep commenting how weird it is. Why does it have subtitles? It's in English, but it's because it's like decoding in his decoder, and it's
Yeah.
sending them messages. It says kids are in danger, and it tells them they have to go to Peru
Yes, on a certain ship.
on a certain ship and we find out that's where the parents are being held right now. We see one scene again of the parents, although not at the end this time. This was about two-thirds
Oh,
in.
and it was a really fun scene actually. I'm really liking these parent scenes.
Yeah, it's because it's cutting to these really well-known actors
Yeah,
just for these little bits, and they're just having a little
but
joke.
all their jokes that they are playing off the jokes being set up elsewhere
Yeah.
in the show. That's what makes them good because they're these completely separate scenes, but the humor is completely built on everything else.
Yeah. So we know they're in Peru, and we know that's where they want to go. But of course, it sets up early on in the episode from the Lemony Snicket sort of narration bits, and he talks about dramatic irony and how there's a scene earlier on when he introduces them to the reptile room. Oh, nothing will harm you kids in here. And so at the end of the episode, when he set the kids to bed, it seems quiet. Oh, nights went well. They've solved the problem of Olaf slash Hugo Strange slash Stefano. and he goes downstairs and he goes into the reptile room, and Lemony Snicket walks on screen and says, and while he was right about the kids, this is where he walks in and finds out about dramatic irony.
Yeah.
So they
It's
set that
really
up.
clever, that, actually, because it's still dramatic irony without him saying it, but it points out for anyone who may have missed it, especially for the younger audience. Again, I think I keep bringing it back up, but it's just pointing out to them that this is going to be that this is meant to be funny.
Yeah, yeah. And we get the classic sort of horror movie we don't show the kill kind of thing, where it's just the reaction of, oh, something's coming towards me.
Classic.
Cut to black, yeah. So that's the end of the episode. But it's, no, it was another fun one. A lot of little jokes. They're talking to crocodiles. There was a lot of nice little messages with the reptiles. He was talking to the kids. He was saying how, oh yeah, there's some bad lizards that spoil it for everyone, but if you take time and get to know them, there's plenty of good ones. And it was kind of like just a metaphor for people and how Olaf was this bad person, but there's plenty of good people.
Yeah. I also thought weirdly, like, like the flying winged lizard somehow looked better than the throwing the cards.
It did. So did the snake, because the snake was CG, the deadly viper thing.
and the crocodile.
Yeah, they looked pretty good. I wonder if it was just because the cards. It wasn't so much the cards that bothered me in the last episode. It was the baby's arms that were clearly
Yeah.
CG. I think those stood out a little bit more. The snake looked quick. This is the thing. It keeps doing effects, and I'm like, this legitimately looks like it could be in a movie. This doesn't feel like it's TV effects.
Yeah, I think the only one that stood out to me a bit weird in this one, off the top of my head, was when Olaf throws the knife.
Yeah, it feels a little bit CG when he throws the knife. Yeah. But
mostly they're pretty
good. It was a
good.
cool moment. Actually, speaking of things where it's getting slightly dark, see when he comes in the door and he blocks the door from shutting with the knife when he first shows up,
Yeah.
and then he's slow. I think it's actually in slow motion. Just the one shot of him walking in, like opening the door with the knife in his hand, slow motion, really dark. Again, just a
It is. It's
simplification,
like, there is a man coming into your home with a knife.
which actually made the whole like joke later on where, like, Monty's playing along with the idea. He's like he's trying to make Stefano think he believes everything he's saying. He's like, well, that's a wonderfully convoluted story. Yes, it turns out that Stefano just likes to do a daily regimen. I mean, I can see why you would get the wrong impression as he's chasing you up and down the stairs with a knife, but it's just part of his exercise. Like, that whole thing was funnier because of how menacing it actually was when it happened.
Yeah. And Neil Patrick Harris is really pulling off that menacing side.
He is. I mean, as much as I enjoyed the Stefano voice, and it was funny, and the other stuff I loved was when they were outside talking under the canoe and all that, and we just see his head like peeking up at the window.
Yeah.
He's just peeking up and down. Yeah. And then the really fake apology for dropping the lamp on his head. Yeah.
And I do like how he gets away with the voices, because obviously they're really bad, but it works because they're meant to be bad. So it doesn't matter how awful a voice he actually puts on, it can work.
Actually, one of my favourite not so much funny, but one of my favourite lines of the episode is actually when Monty, when he finally confronts him out in the parking lot, he says to him, "You're a bad actor." And it's like when he's just broken, he's like, it's like the worst
So
thing.
offended,
It's the worst thing you could say to Olaf. Oh, which reminds me, when he's showing him his papers, he pulls open this thing, and then the other side it's his acting like career credentials. Oh, it's so funny.
Oh man, this is really fun.
Yeah, a lot of great little touches. But again, I feel like those little menacing bits, they're giving it just this nice little bit of an edge.
They are, yeah.
For us as adults watch it, because obviously we're talking about how great it is. It's got nice messages for the kids. It's got the bits where it's teaching you what certain words might mean if you don't know them. Both in the narration and also the thing where they say to the kids, "Oh, in this case it means this," and we know what that means. That running joke that they've got going.
Yeah.
So it's good in that sense. But for us, there's this little edge, this little bit of menacing that.
Yeah, and then you've got like the herpes joke.
The herpes joke. Yeah.
So, like just stuff for the adults watching along with any kids or whatever. Or, anyone who's just watching this out of nostalgia for the property.
But then sometimes there's a simple visual gag that just works. Like, he brings in the popcorn like Stefano, and he's like, "This one's for me, this big giant one," and he hands this little tiny little thing. He's like, "This one's for you three."
Yeah. It does remind me of like the best family or animated films, like the very best ones, which kids will love, but they are suitable for genuinely suitable for anyone. You can watch them at any age and still be a good movie, or in this case, a good TV show, regardless of whether or whoever you are. And
I think this is the second time now where we've watched the part one of the two-part story, which is based on one book, and I've felt like, no, they ended this properly. This didn't feel like it was... It felt like an episode, it felt like it had an ending, and they're doing a good job of splitting these up so far.
They are, and Also, I like the opening title sequence, the song. It's slightly different for this book. Have you noticed? Because he
I
talks about
didn't, but
they talk about the uncle and the reptiles in
right, okay,
this
that's cool.
episode. You'll notice it in the next one now, because I assume it'll be the same for
Yeah,
that
for
one.
the two, yeah, and then it'll
Yeah,
change for the third one. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Nah, I think I did a good job, and also the pacing. That's one of the things that we bring up with Netflix. Although we seem to be having this. This is less of an issue as we get on with these series. All these 8 episode shows and stuff like this, where it feels like the pacing is just perfect. It's just tight, where you don't
I
feel like
think
it's dragging.
it's even less of an issue in this one than usual, because we're not even thinking of it as a season. Almost, it is almost 4 separate movies at this
Yeah,
point. It is kind of how
split
I'm
into.
looking at it, and this feels like a sequel to the first 2 episodes. So it's kind
Yeah.
of it almost starts the pacing again.
If I have any complaints, and this will probably be the same for all the part ones after this, is that there is a little bit of time where I'm like, when's Olaf showing up? Come on, let's get Olaf
Yeah,
back on
yeah,
stream.
yeah, and just kind of setting up.
Yeah.
I feel like all the part ones are gonna be slightly weaker just because of that.
But yeah, because they have to take the time to set up the new Guardian at the start of the
And
episode.
no, there's a real crime in this episode.
Oh god.
There was no hook-handed man.
That is true. We got the twins showed up, and I was expecting these honchos to all like pop up
Yeah,
eventually, and I'm sure we'll see them either next time or in the next story. But yeah, I admit Hookman was missed.
yeah,
Hookman was missed. But no, this was another fun one. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. This is really filling a nice. This is again. This is kind of like how when we talked about Pitch, we were reviewing Pitch. It was so different from everything else we do. This again is kind of the same thing. There's nothing else that we review on this channel that is remotely like this show, and it's kind of a fresher breath air because of that.
yeah. And I feel like we weren't that excited going into this. We were like, yeah, sure, it could be good. We,
Yeah, it seemed fine. The
there's
trailer
talent
looked good.
attached. It looked
Yeah.
all right, but we weren't necessarily all really want to watch this. But now I feel like, oh, I want to watch the next episode. This is really fun.
It is. So that's episode 3. We'll be back later with episode 4. That will be today. That will be tonight. That will be the last one we do tonight. Um, yeah, but we'll have 2 tomorrow, then 2 on Sunday, and that'll be the season. So, yeah, let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot if you do. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.